We're going to now move on to our next session. This is about Blackpool Teaching Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust sharing its process automation success story. This is with FlowForma, and our guests are Lauren Kelly, Intelligent Automation Developer at Blackpool Teaching Hospitals NHS, and Alison Brannigan, Process Expert at FlowForma.
Yeah, so this session today is just going to go through Blackpool Teaching Hospital. It is going to be an interview with Laurent. Laurent is one of our intelligent automation developers within the Blackpool Teaching Hospital, and I am working with FlowForma. So I'm one of the process automation experts here. So really primarily my role is to look at how I can align with a customer. I walk them through what it is they're trying to achieve, and then together we can get to an agreement if it makes sense to move forward with FlowForma. So it's a very collaborative process, and I'm delighted to have Laurie here with me today. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to go through 3 slides. So I'm going to take about 3 minutes, and I'm going to walk through what it is that FlowForma primarily looks after, just so everyone has an understanding of the solution before we kick off. As I said, that's 3 minutes, and then I'm going to go into the interview then with Laurie. So what we offer is we're a dedicated process automation platform. And what we do is we provide a no-code interface to empower citizen development, if that's the route you want to go down, or if you want to enable the IT staff to have a better and easier and faster system to digitize processes at speed and at scale. So the software integrates into your SharePoint and your Office 365 tenancy. And what it does, it actively integrates into your Active Directory through your single sign-on. What we do is we offer you the ability then to custom build workflows that have many points of information then that a user will interact with on a form. At the end or in the middle of it, if you need to generate a document, you have the ability to do that. And everything that is captured within the system then is surfaced up via our own analytics tool. So if you don't want to use Power BI, or if you don't want to use any other reporting tools, you have the ability then to surface everything coming through the system. So on the right-hand side here, again, we want that really quick return on your investment. So the learning curve, because it's all no code, is quite quick. It's extremely affordable. So everything is built in. So the automation is built in. We don't price separately. It's all no code, meaning that, as I said, regardless of your ability to string a line of code together, if you use Power Apps, our system then takes that away, and you're then able to manage your own processes yourself. And we believe on an iterative basis. So everything that's done is completely agile. We also lean on the lean principles as well. We are recognized within the community, so we are an award-winning process automation provider, and we have earned global recognition across the likes of Forrester, the G2 platform. A lot of our clients evangelize the system, and all you have to do is go on and see all the good things that they've said about us. So sometimes when I'm talking to people, they have different drivers for coming and having a conversation with me. So as we know, digital transformation, it's a key priority for businesses across the globe. Okay, it's a buzzword, everyone wants to do it. And actually in 2023, the UK Department of Health and Social Care identified that the digital transformation of the NHS actually is one industry that we're very strong in as a top priority. So that being said, we invited on one of our most successful customers, who I'll be interviewing shortly, to talk us through the use cases there. And then some of the key drivers for digital transformation include really driving positive outcomes. So we want to gain operational efficiencies where we can. We want to try and reduce budgets, and we just want data and better process insights. FlowForma allows you to do all of that, again, through our no-code interface. So as I mentioned there, so Laurie is going to answer a couple of questions. And really when I'm talking to people, they really want to know how we have helped other people in a similar industry. So if there is questions that as Laurie is talking, you want to ask and you want potentially to delve more into, we'd be happy to do that. But actually before I jump in, thank you, Ursula, I am just going to ask if you could just partake in a little poll. We'd love some feedback from you. So if you just want to take a minute or two and read through. So FlowForma, your digital transformation journey, where are you on it? So are you on a 12-month agenda and we're ready to get started? Or again, very popular one, not sure where to start, you're exploring your options. Or lastly, we've just started our journey and have introduced some new ways of working. We'd just love to have a bit of feedback on that. Okay. Okay, so we actually have over half of the people you've just started on the journey and have introduced. Okay, that's actually really interesting. Um, Sometimes people are actually just not sure where to start. It is something I find very interesting to understand the rationale about where people choose and what department is crying out the most. So as I said, that's really interesting. I'm just going to close out of that and I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to come back to just speaking directly to Laurie. Laurie, thanks a million for joining us today. So I've had the pleasure of working with you for the last 2 years, but would you just mind taking just a couple of moments and introducing yourself and actually just introducing Blackpool Teaching Hospital as a trust as well? It would be great to hear a little bit about you and the hospital.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, so a little bit about Blackpool Teaching Hospitals. We are primarily a specialist hospital that provide regional care for cardiac and haematology patients. We employ roughly around 8,000 staff, but support approximately around 16,000 staff as like an IT function. So customers, GP practices and hospices. We provide hospital services to around 352,000 people living on the Fylde coast in the northwest of England, and we also provide community services to the 445,000 residents of Blackpool, Fylde, Wye, and North Lancashire as well. It's also in the name as well that we are a teaching hospital, so we do provide medical education and training to future and current health professionals. A little bit about myself. I've been with the trust since 2022. I work in the Intelligent Automation Department, which sits under the division Digital within the trust. And my day-to-day is developing and managing eForm solutions, FlowForma included, and various automations.
Brilliant, excellent, thanks a million. So a very busy trust from what you've just said there, lots going on, lots to do. And I know that you have digitized over 100 processes, but I guess when you were embarking on your digital transformation journey, like what did you look for in a tool? What do you feel is important to look out for?
Yeah, I think yeah, I'd like to start off by saying we previously used InfoPath. This was before I joined the trust. But I believe we stopped using that due to, I think, support ending potentially. But again, I'm not sure. I'm sure I can find out why.
Yeah, you're correct.
But,
Yeah, their support.
yeah,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, so first and foremost, yeah, we look for sort of a workflow automation tool that could be tailored to like any complex or bespoke departmental business process. We also needed a tool that could support sort of more interdepartmental processes as well, like fusion teams, where sort of aspects like communication, reporting, and auditing needed to be obviously the top priority, especially when dealing with so many people on one essential process. Secondly, sort of in line with the Trust Green Plan, we're always looking at ways to produce more paper-free methods of capturing data. We also looked for a more sort of out-of-the-box solution that could be easily distributed and also set up with very little setup time as well. And also potentially provide training on that software for people that maybe don't have specialist IT knowledge as well. For instance, coding, etc. So yeah, that was kind of what we're on the lookout for.
Brilliant. And of all those things, I know you said that you used UiPath before. Did you ever go into any of the Power Platform? Did you have any experience using that?
Personally, no, I don't think our department hasn't as of yet, or hasn't. I don't think it's ever dealt with the Power Automate or anything. So yeah, it's we've basically used FlowForma the whole time. So as far as I'm aware, so yeah.
Brilliant,
Yeah.
excellent. I do ask that. I actually have a reason to ask that is that sometimes because we sit in the SharePoint and Office 365 environment, sometimes people say, I'm just going to use potentially what I have. The Power Platform is great. However, we find that you can potentially attest to this. So for processes that we would consider quite complex, which I'm guessing because of the amount of processes you have, can you talk a little bit about the level of complexity that you have and the amount of processes that have multiple stakeholders and multiple steps?
Yeah, so we have some really complex projects that I think they have up to or need about up to like 8 signatories. So we're talking anywhere from finance to payroll to all the way up to the execs need to approve it. So there's a lot of moving parts. And FlowForma definitely simplifies that in terms of the approval process and how it facilitates the digital communication between the steps as well. It's extremely handy. It's extremely time saving as well. And yeah.
Good, yeah, no, and it's really interesting that you say it because the amount of stakeholders that you deal with, do you find as well that, if for instance, maybe a staff member is out sick, to delegate a process off, how easy is that to do?
Absolutely, yeah, very easy, and it happens all the time, especially when we've got so many processes and so many people involved in signing off those processes. It's incredibly useful to have that ability to reassign forms to get another signatory to sign it off, and then at least it keeps the process moving. It doesn't put a stop to the process. We can keep the process moving, get it signed off, and sort of reach the end, which is great. So.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I wanted you to just give your experience on that, because again, what we're always focusing on is eradicating bottlenecks. We want to remove processes with that manual onus on somebody to go in and to have to check up on something or to figure out if it's been done or not. So the system removes all that from you. And again, I wanted you to attest to that. But I know you've said there a lot of your processes are complex, but could you just give me a really high level overview, like on a daily basis, who would use it across the trust?
Absolutely. The answer to that, well, actually, to start with, I just want to sort of say where we started essentially with sort of FlowForma in terms of because I believe this is probably the biggest department that uses FlowForma in the trust, and that would be HR. So we, I think and I had to find this out because again, it wasn't me that developed this, but it was I believe we started with a process called the New Starter form, which was a HR form, obviously for the HR department. Very, very complex process to start with. So we obviously jumped right in, which is great. But yeah, the process was to help HR onboard new staff members into the trust. And the form required various departments to sign off, for instance, recruitment, digital identity, IT, and payroll. Obviously, we didn't just want also a linear process. We wanted to be able to go backwards and forwards because there might be some wrong data entry very early on that needs to be rectified later on in the process. So we obviously it's an amazing feature as well. And then off the back of this, we actually developed around 6 forms for HR recently. So including the case management system, assignment change for when an employee changes roles. And flexible working. So I'd say that's probably our biggest user in the trust is probably the HR systems. But in terms of actually who uses the forms, literally everybody. And I'm talking clinical and non-clinical departments, from finance to HR, from wards producing sanitary checks, or even our charity organisation, Blue Skies, which takes funding applications through FlowForma. We've also recently developed and I know we'll talk about this in a bit, the digital portal, so staff can request new project requests and changes and advice, and it gets triaged to the right department to help them out. Literally anybody from staff members to execs, all the way to the CEO uses FlowForma, which is pretty cool. We've got doctors, nurses, clinicians, other clinicians like consultants, the corporate workforce, and also I think it's worth highlighting the fact that obviously we have a training process because we have such a high demand that we actually train people to not just use the form, submit forms, but we actually train them to use the system and sort of like you said, mentioned about delegating and building forms. So yeah, absolutely everybody.
Amazing. And that's really interesting that you actually have a training program. So that's to help and enable other departments and not to solely rely on IT. Is that what you leverage that for?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. We've had such a high demand for FlowForma processes recently that we decided to put together like a small training package. I myself actually jump on a call and taught them through how to sort of set up a form and add some basic questions. This is great for pretty much anybody, even if they're not IT illiterate. They seem to just get it sort of straight away, and they can build a form. I think we probably I don't have any statistics. No, I think we've got about 7. Around 7, I think, live forms that have been built by not by myself or my department, have been built by people we've trained within the trust to develop these forms. Amongst that, there's a handful more of people that can actually manage the forms now via training on how to maintain them. So they're not sort of coming back to us and asking, oh, how do you redelegate this? How do you do that? We give them the access, we teach them how to, and then they go off and they can do it themselves, which is great.
Brilliant. And just for reference, you
Yeah.
assign a development and a training environment that's not in the live production environment, obviously.
Yeah, of course, yeah. We've assigned them to our sort of a test site we've essentially set up, and we say, you can't break it, so go ahead, go and try. Or we build them a site, and then obviously we don't turn the site live until they're ready to go, and obviously we've signed it off the process. The process obviously always comes back to us. We give them a little review. We usually book in another session with them. We say, oh, is there anything else you'd like? Maybe for the more complex things will help, but generally the form's up and running and it's ready to go. So.
Brilliant. It sounds like you're doing a fantastic job if they're already up and running and flat out. Ursa's actually asked me to ask a question here. So somebody has commented that 100+ processes sounds like a lot. What does that entail when do you consider a process having been digitized?
Good question. I think it's any project that you can, or sorry, any project process that you can consider as, it's sped up in terms of the time to complete, I'd say. And it's worth mentioning that not all projects are, or not all processes have essentially gone from paper to digital. They could start as, and this is a great example here, they could start as a Word document that's been passed around multiple departments, signed off, printed off, scanned, etc. It doesn't necessarily have to be an initial paper document. So it's always a good sort of tangible result to see that that a process is actually sped up, and when we get the feedback to say, yeah, that's actually really helped us and stuff. So
yeah, and that's a great thing as well, is that the benefits that you're going to see. So essentially what we're always trying to do is remove any manual, paper-based, or even email or Excel-based process from an organization. And what the screenshot I'm sharing here, Larry, and you'll walk me through, is I would just love you to focus on some of the benefits that you've seen from digitizing these processes. I know you have a couple of different slides on this, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll touch on this in a second. So yeah, the main obviously the main one is the reduced paper consumption. And like I mentioned before, it doesn't have to be a paper-based process that's being digitized. It could be something via an email trail, or like you said, Excel, or even a Word document. It could be absolutely anything. So that is a massive benefit. It can speed things up. I'd also say the staff exposure to the FlowForma processes, the more we build, the more exposure we get. Staff are asking for more, which is absolutely great, and that's why we've put the training initiative in place for that. We're also, I'd say, one of the biggest benefits as well, especially for departments like payroll and finance, is that they like a comprehensive audit trail of every record that's gone through, and I feel like the system really sort of hits that mark. In terms of they can go in and see any form that's been submitted, what date it's been submitted, who submitted it, absolutely everything, which is really great, and where it's up to as well if they need to sort of push it on. Fantastic, and that's even great for producing reports as well, and also PDFs as well, which I know is a big feature that people around the trust love, is the ability to for submit a form, have it generate a PDF, and then they can move that into a folder, or they can store it, or they can do whatever they want with it, which is great. In terms of the benefits of this particular process that we see on screen, so just to give you a bit of background, this was the original project request system. It was a 46-page document initially that took, so I've been told, over an hour to complete, but could take longer depending on the complexities of it. I've obviously only showed you one page of that 46 pages. And on the right-hand side, you can see the sort of the condensed version on FlowForma that we've built for them. So this it's essentially gone from a 46-page document into an 8 or 9-step process, where I think there's only a handful of questions on the first page just to ask, what is your project? Who needs to sign it off, etc. And it goes through the top. You can see at the top we've got the multiple steps. We've got the first initial request, and then we've got the senior manager approval, and then it will go on and on. It will actually get triaged to the right department so they can get the expert help on their project. And it goes all the way through until it's either rejected or approved. And since this system has been up, I think we've had it's only been up, I think, 7 months maybe. We've had over 100 requests for it already. I mean, it's the ease of use of people submitting project requests in this sort of manner, rather than the previous version, which was this lengthy document. It's a great thing to see, and we've had a lot of praise for it, so it's brilliant. Could you just go to the next slide, please,
Yeah.
Alison, if that's okay? Yeah. So just on the back of that, and again, I was talking about reporting before. This is a the project request FlowForma system actually exports the SQL. So we've got that raw data captured that we set up for the project team, so they can build this dashboard, which is on screen right now. And this shows pretty much everything from where the projects are up to, what stage they're up to, how many projects in particular categories we've got. I think it even breaks it down by division. So if there's a project request in a certain division, they can see that. I think they built this with, again, this was our reporting team. So this is kind of basically what they've done with the raw data captured from FlowForma. So this is showing that the possibilities are obviously there to take that data and use it in a multitude of ways.
Amazing. So I guess in summary, what we've just done is we've made everyone's life that little bit easier in the trust that you are more focused on patient care processes. You've removed any ambiguity around how to do something. You've given people back time so they don't have to fill out that 46-page document among all the other processes that you have digitized as well. So I think I know I'm just conscious of time. So I know that we're coming up nearly to our 30 minutes. It's amazing how quickly 30 minutes goes, Larry, isn't it?
Absolutely,
I'm
yeah.
going to just do some questions and answers. If you bear with me, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to have a little look at the chat.
Yes, I can help you a little bit.
Yeah.
We have a question here from Alina, and she was asking, were all the processes documented before you started implementing FlowForma?
That's a good question. Yeah, I believe most of them were. Certainly, I'm trying to think. I trying to think. This might be before I started, so I'm trying to think how they were documented. But I know certainly going forward from when I started and I picked up the FlowForma system, processes were documented and sent to me either in their original sort of format, so I could build off that, or they were sent to me via sort of a project definition document. In which they define the sort of the variables and what they need from it. So yeah.
Great. You also touched on this a little bit, but we're getting asked, how do you suggest organizations prioritize processes for digitization? And are some processes better to start with than others? You mentioned starting off, I believe, with HR, right?
Yeah, so we kind of jumped in right at the deep end. So we pretty much started straight away with a very complex program, but that obviously set us up to then go and make any complex program, which was great. I'd say it's a tricky one. I'd say in terms of prioritizing, I think it's just I think it's understanding, obviously, the more tangible things like how much time is it going to save, I guess, is probably just the biggest one. I know it sounds, but yeah, it's got to be. And also, we do look at we do actually see or hear about how the processes were initially carried out. It could be literally we had a process that was somebody was literally taking a document to all the execs and the CEO manually. And we see the time saved from doing that, and digitizing actually that. It's incredible, and they're very happy with that. So yeah, it's I'd say prioritize the ones that have get the quick wins and then use them to build the more complex sort of stuff. But yeah, again, it's hard to talk about it because we started very complex. So
It does sound like taking away grunt work is one way. And of course, you mentioned saving time. Saving time is saving money, right? Time is money.
Absolutely.
That's the saying. So I'm sure that those are great places to start. We did have one other question. So does FlowForma, you mentioned we were talked a little bit about training. Does FlowForma offer support or training to get you started? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we do. So even to any of the questions about where do you start in the journey, we actually offer a completely supported experience. So we offer the benefit of our consultancy first and foremost when you begin engaging with us. And we can actually workshop through any ideas that you have. And we also offer a supported trial environment. So they're the two options, even without signing an agreement. After you would onboard with us, you're given an intense hand-holding period, which would mean that a customer success agent works with you, and our promise to you is to get your first process live. So you have our full undivided attention for the first 6 weeks. Obviously, you have your full 12-month support agreement. You have a customer support portal, you have me, and you have the customer success team. And we also offer then self-paced learning, academy licenses. We have a whole plethora of different ways that we can support you throughout the journey.
That's great. We have many questions. I think we could do one more. Are the forms launched from whatever app the user is working in? For example, a care plan approval form might be launched from the patient's electronic medical record.
I can start that, and Laurie, you can go into how you use it. So we have various ways that you can launch a form. Laurie and some of his team actually go through their intranet or through a portal, and they can initiate a form launch. We have then the ability to embed a form in a QR code or a barcode. You can put a sticker on the side of somewhere if it's an incident report. We've made it so easy for a user to capture the information because it is available on mobile phones and tablets as well. So there's various ways that a user could go in and launch a form, but primarily if you want to use it on your desktop, you can just either bookmark a tab or an annual leave request, and it is available on a mobile phone because again, you authenticate through your Microsoft credentials, so you can actually have it on your mobile phone. It's really handy.
That's great. We are at time, but I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you one more quick question because we did get started a couple minutes late. How do you empower transformation for all the departments? How are you doing, how are you getting everyone on board, I guess is the way to put it. And this can be the final takeaway, maybe.
Yeah, of course. I do think culture is a big thing. So we always find that organizations that have that drive from the top down, it's a top-down decision to drive more digital transformation. I think as well, another really strong element of FlowForma is the fact that we do give you back time. So if we're saying, hey, we're going to come in and we're going to make your life easier, we're going to have information staying within the company because everything is captured in a process. We're not going to have you thinking about who do I need to contact again for that. We are going to give you back time. We're going to make it easier. And that adoption then is widespread across the organization because who doesn't want to get on board with that?
Right. Well, that's a lovely way to end this session. We have run out of time. I know there are many questions the audience was asking and comments that they shared. I hope you'll all be able to follow up with them. Audience, you can feel free, I'm sure, to connect with Laurent and Allison on LinkedIn. And at this time, they're going to say goodbye to us. Thank you so much for a great conversation. You can exit through the backstage and we will get ready for our next session. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you.
very
Thanks for
much
having
for
us.
having
Thank
us.
you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.